Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld with Kimberly Guilfoyle, Juan Williams, Eric Bowling, and she naps in an eggshell. Dana Perino, the 5.
The thriller of vanilla.
Forget about the presidential debates. Tonight's the debate that matters most. For these two guys are what's behind that glass we break in case of emergency. Who are they? Tim Pence, Mike Cain. Sorry, Mike Pence, Tim Kaine. Or is it Mike Tim, Pence Cain? Not that it matters. 4 out of 10 people don't know them anyway. Even though this is the heartbeat away crew. This guy or this guy. What do we know about him? They're white men, of course. In fact, they're so vanilla, you're tempted to scoop them onto a slice of apple pie. One has a musical mouth. And one has a dirty mouth.
This really is fun to watch, I'll tell you what.
Neither choices were picked by the candidates. Hillary wanted her, and Trump wanted him. Cain and Pence, these mild extras from Allstate commercials, were picked to calm a country worried about the other two. On a menu that serves only raw carp, Cain and Pence, they're the chicken fingers. So the debate will be those two fellas defending their guy or gal. Cain will say Hillary isn't corrupt. Pence will say Trump isn't nuts. For they are the mousy spouses to their harsh partners. When their significant other is puking into a planter at a party, it's up to the Cains and the Pences of the world to say, he didn't mean that, or sorry, she's not feeling well. Better halves are boring, but necessary. Last, these VPs are religious, so the presidential choice doesn't have to be. They secularized the campaign. So instead of debating over abortion or gay marriage, we've moved on to more vital stuff, like sex tapes and overweight beauty queens. Glad we finally got to what matters. All right. So, Dana.
Yeah.
There's only one debate for the VP candidates. Is that one too many?
I think that one is just plenty.
Yes.
One is just plenty. I think it's good. It's interesting that these two, vice presidents are usually the attack dogs.
Right.
But they don't need to be in this case. As you're pointing out, they just need to be the calmer ones. For both Cheney and Biden, those choices I think really were meant to help counterbalance and show some gravitas, but they were also really good attack dogs. Cheney in particular I think was very good at it, and especially when it came to John Edwards and that debate, which really helped George W. Bush, because as Eric was pointing out yesterday, the person who usually wins the first debate isn't all, well, 75% historically, they don't end up being the president.
You are in so much trouble on Twitter now.
Why? I've said that from the beginning.
No, I know, but Twitter just lights up. Oh, I can't believe you said that.
I don't care about Twitter.
I can't believe you're in the tank for this one. You're out of your mind. Don't you know this one was leading before you went in? I've never opened up more cans of, a bigger can of worms than that
Twitter worms.
Whiteboard yesterday. I'm sorry.
Okay, so my point was going to be that 43 was largely seen to have lost that first debate in the re-election. And he gets off stage and he thinks he's done just fine. And the staff is like, oh, sir, that was not a good debate. Like, what are you talking about? He goes down in the polls, and John Kerry, that race was very close. John Kerry starts doing better. What really helped stop the slide in the polls was Cheney's debate against Edwards, because he destroyed him, and that actually stopped the slide, and then he was able to get his way back.
All right, all right, all right. Eric.
You somehow made this interesting. I'm looking all day going, what am I going to do tonight? But
go ahead.
It's almost like Trump and Hillary are pizza and chicken wings, and these two are the veggies. You got to have that. No matter who you end up voting for, you want to make sure that they have some stability across, and you're comfortable with, as you point out, one heartbeat away from the presidency with both of them. I think they're both going to be very measured. They'll probably both try and engage the other one in bringing the top of the ticket into the debate, and they'll both probably push back on that and say, certainly what I would do is stay with us.
I think it could get fiery, and I think that abortion and gay marriage absolutely will come up tonight.
That's what I was going to ask Juan, because you notice no social issues between when they have Trump and Hillary. It's only been one debate, though, but because these are religious, and one of them has modified, Cain has modified his beliefs to fit the party, which is kind of hypocritical. Pence is still anti-gay marriage. This could be
right, and Pence, of course, had the religious freedom deal in Indiana that was
essentially canceled out by the large corporations in Indiana, which said this is in opposition to our, gay rights agenda, and you can't do that. But the abortion issue has not come up. And later in the show, we're going to talk about Obamacare. Obamacare hasn't come up. Right. I imagine that also Pence is going to have to defend the wall and defend Trump on immigration, even though Pence has not been a supporter of what Donald Trump has put forward on immigration, like banning Muslims from coming into the country. To my mind, what's so interesting about this is these are the party regulars. Kaine actually was the head of the Democratic National Committee and a tremendous fundraiser. Pence is a guy that's beloved by the Republican establishment, especially evangelicals. I think for them, he will be the guy that could excite them, that could get them going and support Trump. Right now, they're just kind of like, yeah, I guess we got to go with Trump because we don't like Hillary. But he could actually excite some fires.
Yeah, I think he's got, a couple of important jobs to get done tonight, Pence does. I think, yes, he's got to perhaps, excite or motivate the base, but also some reassurance to say, look, I'm with this guy, I'm with Trump. For those of you out there that, trust me, trust the type of politics, the ideology that I bring forward, conservatism, a focus on religion and First Amendment and whatnot, you can trust me. And also the guy that I'm with isn't somebody who's a misogynist or has issues with women. I think he's going to try to do some of that to kind of coat the ticket in acceptability.
Right.
And then in terms of Kaine, I think he's going to say, listen, promise you, I pinky swear that Hillary's not going to put a for sale sign up on the Oval when she gets in and influence peddling, and that you can trust her. So I think that's a little bit of what they need to get done.
Could I add one other thing about the importance of this?
One more thing?
No, well, not till the end of the show. But I do think, given the fact that the Senate races are so close right now, it does look like the Republicans are going to be able to hold on, but there is a scenario, a very real one, that you could have a 50-50 Senate, which means that one of these two people would be the Vice President of the United States, and that position becomes so much more important in any scenario where there's a deadlock in the Congress.
So can I ask a very, very legitimate question? I don't know the answer. Is this a debate to find out who these two are, or is this a debate to find out how these people support their candidate? How do they support number one? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's going to come down to the debate moderator deciding which way to go after it, because I would rather know what Kaine and Pence are about rather than how they're going to how Pence is going to defend some of the things that he doesn't agree with Donald Trump on, and how Kaine will defend some of the things he disagrees with Hillary Clinton.
I think that's why it's going to cancel. I have a feeling there's going to be a canceling out because of that. I hear noise. I think Trump is coming out.
Of your ear? Of your ear?
Out of my ear. He's coming out of my ear. It's a weird disorder. All right. I have... what do you think will come up then? Speaking of coming up.
Yes, exactly. Coming up, the debate. I think it's actually going to be exciting to watch. I think people have this kind of weird low expectation of it, and I think that's the wrong way to go.
I think it could be
I think that it's going to be fiery, and I think that they've got to prove themselves here and try to do the best that they can. Especially, I think Pence has to try to pick up some steam and some momentum that people felt that Donald Trump should have been able to get from the last debate and kind of make up.
And one of the ways that he can do that is to try to hit some of the missed opportunities that we talked about with Donald Trump in terms of the foundation, the emails, etc. And also I think Pence has a little bit of an interesting walk, but I think he stands to benefit from the fact that Donald Trump is the outsider candidate. He's the out-party candidate. So how do you, as Mike Pence, who was an insider but then left and was governor, what do you know how to fix Washington? He'll be able to say that.
Yeah, join the ticket of change.
I just hope Kaine brings his harmonica.
Well, I tell you what, I think both of them are basically, this is like the guy who's the street sweeper after the circus. I mean, they have to clean up a mess. And in the case of Kaine, he's got to humanize Hillary Clinton, get back to what the Democratic Convention did. And in the case of Mike Pence, I think he's got to explain birthers, racism, bigotry, anti-Muslim stuff.
But the other thing is, 40% of the electorate can't name either candidate.
But that's true that 40%. I don't think that if you do those tests, like how many people can name the current vice president?
Yeah.
And you get about a similar percentage, right?
The current vice president can't name the current vice president.
No, yes.
That's a joke. I love Joe Biden. That is our current vice president. Looks like we got Donald Trump speaking. That's exciting.
Are you tossing to it?
No, I don't think I'm going to toss to it. I don't think I'm tossing to it. I think we're just going to stare at it. Isn't it interesting, though, this is the first real election where there's no real social issues?
well, that have come up yet.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean it won't come up at the next presidential debate, or perhaps a preview of it on the debate tonight with the vice president.
It will definitely come up, especially as something that Hillary Clinton did not do, which she did not try it, but even though she was narrowcasting to particular constituencies that would support her, she didn't talk specifically about gay issues or about abortion. And I definitely think that Kaine is going to bring that up. He will say that Mike Pence was the one that wanted to defund Planned Parenthood, and then he will talk about the gay rights issues in Indiana. Conversely, I think that Pence would say that Kaine is a hypocrite for not being truly pro-life.
So, and then how much relevance, how much impact is that going to have on the election, given that they're just the VP? You know, we're not electing.
I think the only way that this actually moves the needle at all is if one of them spectacularly fails, which I don't anticipate either of them doing.
But I think that you have an opportunity for, for Kaine to say, hey, what about your differences with your candidate? Not only is he have differences about allowing Muslim immigrants into the country, he also disagrees with him about climate change. A lot of this stuff is going to be the Republican establishment figure versus Donald Trump. If Kaine is successful, he's going to bore in there and say, hey, there's a real difference between you and the candidate. Help us understand this.
All right, he's talking about the debate. Let's go to Mr. Trump.
The debate will be a contrast between our campaign of big ideas and bold solutions for tomorrow versus the small and petty Clinton campaign that is totally stuck in the past. Totally stuck in the past. We are change. She is for 4 more years of Obama, and we can't take that. Clinton can't talk about real problems facing our country because she's the one who helped create all of those problems in the first place. They're not going to be able to do anything about it. To hide her corruption, she deleted 33,000 emails after getting a congressional subpoena. Wow, how she got away with that one. How she got away with that is a disgrace.
All right, we're going to continue monitoring this speech to see if he breaks any news about the debate. It's very exciting. Meanwhile, Bret Baier joins us from the debate site with more on the showdown. Also ahead, Category 4, Hurricane Matthew is pounding Haiti. The East Coast is on high alert. South Carolina's governor has ordered a coastal evacuation in preparation for the storm. A live update from the Fox Weather Center ahead.
I'm meteorologist Rick Reckmuth in the Fox Weather Center. This right here is the center of Hurricane Matthew, a Category 4 storm getting ready to move over the far eastern tip of Cuba. Unfortunately, not interacting with a lot of land. That means no weakening as this tracks here into the Bahamas. This is a future forecast for this, and you get the idea. Over the next 2 days, it's going to rake the Bahamas, still maintaining Category 3 or 4 strength. So a major hurricane moving across the Bahamas, and the latest advisory at 5 p.m. just came in and has now extended the hurricane watch down just to the north of Miami, expecting to see kind of a western trend with the latest model runs, and that means that the track nudges a little bit farther off towards the west. We have the potential to have the center of the storm moving anywhere here right along the coastal areas of Florida before moving somewhere across the Carolinas. After that, lots of uncertainty late in the forecast in the short term. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and the North Carolina need to watch the storm very closely. We'll keep you up to date right here on Fox News. Right now, we'll send it back to the 5.
Tonight on the Fox News Channel, you will see the first and the last debate between vice presidential nominees Mike Pence and Tim Kaine. It begins in less than 4 hours, 9 p.m. Eastern. Joining us now, a man who knows a thing or two about what to expect at debates, Bret Baier, who co-moderated 3 of them this election cycle. Bret's the chief political anchor, and he's at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. He's the anchor of Special Report, but you knew that. Hi, Bret.
Hey, Juan.
I was thinking we were all here pumping up the audience to say you got to watch tonight. We had a record audience for the presidential debate last week. And what I know historically is the two biggest vice presidential debates in terms of audience, Bush v. Ferraro in '84, about 56 million, and of course in '08, Biden versus Palin, 69 million. What do you think about tonight? Those two, you'll note, Brett, had women in it. They were the first. The first one was obviously Ferraro, but then also Palin. The women brought something special. Tonight, as my friend Greg Gutfeld says, we got two white guys. What do you think?
Well, I tell you, this is not the best tease for coverage, but I think both of these guys are probably going to try to not make news tonight, to try to, get through, defend the top of the ticket, well positioned about Mike Pence will talk about change and the fact that he and Donald Trump are the change agents here. You just heard Donald Trump in that appearance that he was wishing Mike Pence good luck and saying that they are the change and that Hillary Clinton is President Obama 4 more years and we can't take that. So I think that message will come through from Pence. And then Kaine will try to stick Pence with the temperament issues and the 3 a.m. tweets that you hear from Hillary Clinton.
Eric Bowen. Hey, Brett, so this is in Farmville, Virginia, notably that the Governor Kaine from Virginia, he'll be the home team player there. How does the moderator make sure that the crowd doesn't get involved in homer the debate in favor of Kaine?
Yeah, so they do the whole preamble where the commission comes out and admonishes the crowd to really stay out of this. I will say that last time, being in the hall, the crowd at the last debate did not, towards the end. I mean, they were very kind of loud and laughing and clapping and weighing in. Elaine Quijano with CBS will likely lay down those same guidelines for this audience. There's about 600 seats in that hall, and 100 of them will be students. The others will be broken up to the two campaigns.
Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Hi, Brett. So I'm actually looking forward to this tonight. I think they're both going to do a very good job and represent their parties and also their running mates well. If you were to pick one area in particular that you think might be a big focus tonight, what would it be?
Well, I think they're going to both go after the top of the ticket, as I mentioned, and try to stick. Kaine will be on the defense about the email servers and the immunity deals, one would think. Pence will be armed with that. And then Mike Pence will be, probably on the defensive, but has largely done a pretty good job of explaining Donald Trump and his appeal to middle America. I think on substance, though, Kimberly, that some of these social issues, I think I heard Dana mentioning them earlier, they may come up because obviously Mike Pence, as Indiana governor, dealt with that religious freedom bill, and I bet Tim Kaine goes after that. Tim Kaine has his own defense about the Hyde Amendment and abortion.
Dana.
Right, thanks.
Well, I'm curious, Brett, I know that you just said that you think that their goal is to make no news, but if you were one of these campaigns and you thought that maybe you could use a little bump, I mean, maybe they should try to make some news tonight. Now, Donald Trump just said he's going to live tweet the debate, which actually might be the most interesting part of the debate. But yeah. wouldn't one of these campaigns want like a big headline tomorrow morning?
As long as it's the right headline, as you know, Dana. I mean, if it's going your way and there's a moment, a Lloyd Benson moment to Dan Quayle that you are no Jack Kennedy, yes, that would be great. But if one of them steps in it, you don't want that to be the headline to take away from the top of the ticket. I don't think, if you look back at vice presidential debates, that they have moved the needle that much. Can you think of more than just a couple of moments that from vice presidential debates? I don't think many people can. So we'll see what happens. It could potentially be more substantive on policy. These guys are well versed in their two parties.
Greg Gutfeld has a question about Tim Kaine's eyebrows.
Do I?
I'm teasing.
You read my mind, you sexy beast. Oh my God. People think that this is going to be the opposite of the presidential debate. The presidential debate was high expectation for drama, low expectation for substance, and somehow we think this is going to be reversed. I have a feeling this could get ugly because they're going to have to defend each other's choices, or the choices they may not have made, but their partner, it is like, you know, you're married to an obnoxious spouse that you have to constantly defend.
Okay.
I'm just speaking from my wife's perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. I got it. I will say this, you know, like the practice partners for these two, Governor Scott Walker of Wisconsin is playing the role of Tim Kaine for Mike Pence, and Bob Barnett, Washington lawyer, is playing the role of Mike Pence for Tim Kaine. Those are not... you know, I don't think they're going to upset the apple cart there with those practice partners. But I do think that you may be right, because last night we had a soundbite from Governor Pence, and we had to bleep it when he said, "Can you believe this?"
We heard that. We heard that earlier.
About,
yeah. Hey, Dana had a quick follow-up for you.
Brett, I wanted to ask you this because in the presidential debate, and actually throughout the campaign, neither of them have talked much about Obamacare. But I absolutely still believe that the reasons that the Republicans won in 2014 are the reasons that the Republicans should continue to talk about Obamacare, especially now. How do you think both of them handle that tonight?
It's going to be a huge thing, I think, tonight, and I bet you we hear about that soundbite from former President Bill Clinton, where he says Obamacare, it's just crazy that people, small businesses are getting killed. I would venture to guess that Governor Pence is probably going to quote from that, and Obamacare is going to be a factor in one of these, whether it's brought up by the moderator, Elaine Quijano, or it is brought up by Mike Pence, because it is a big issue as you go around these states and talk to people. They're affected by it then.
And it's not necessarily that easy for Mike Pence in terms of, you know, totally trashing Obamacare, because as governor of Indiana, he went ahead and took the deal that Obamacare offered to the states.
Exactly. So, you know, I think Kaine will come back with, you know, they want to repeal and replace, but replace with what? And Republicans have been blocking. You saw President Obama wrote an op-ed in the
we have to break in here. Hillary Clinton's come to the microphone for a press availability. Here she is.
Campaign developments of the last day. Yesterday, Donald Trump was asked a question about post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and other challenges facing many of our troops. And part of his response was that post-traumatic stress happens to troops who, quote, can't handle it. He said, if you're strong, you can handle it. Many people are now standing up and speaking out against Trump because post-traumatic stress is not something that strong people can handle and weak people can't. Some of the strongest men and women any of us will ever meet have experienced post-traumatic stress. Donald Trump's comments are not just ignorant, they're harmful because they give voice to the stigma that has led generations of veterans to hide their struggles instead of getting life-saving help. That stigma still exists, and lots of people who need help aren't getting it. You know what doesn't help with that? When a man asking to be our next commander-in-chief stands up and says post-traumatic stress isn't a problem if you're strong. Vice President Joe Biden spoke about this in an interview earlier today, and he said that every morning he gets an update from the Pentagon on how many troops were injured or killed around the world overnight. We learned earlier today that an American service member was killed by an IED in Afghanistan. Every one of our troops matter. Their wounds can be visible and invisible. Most of us know that, but apparently Donald doesn't. Our troops deserve a commander-in-chief who understands and respects the sacrifices they make. Whether they're living with post-traumatic stress, or they're POWs, or they don't make it home and they leave a grieving family behind. And every American dealing with mental health challenges deserves compassion, whether they've ever served in uniform or not. So I hope the voters are hearing Donald Trump loudly and clearly. And I want to thank our service members, our veterans, and all of our military families for their service and sacrifice.
That was Hillary Clinton talking about Donald Trump's comments on post-traumatic stress syndrome and its effect on the troops yesterday, obviously very critical. Up next, President Clinton didn't have very good things to say about Obamacare yesterday, but it appears he's trying today to undo the damage. Stay tuned.
loving you well.
It's President Obama's signature law, one that Hillary Clinton's pledged to expand. So why hasn't the Democratic nominee been touting Obamacare more on the trail? The secretary's gone pretty silent on the Affordable Care Act, but she was asked about health care at an event today and brought up some of Obamacare's shortcomings.
Obviously, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that everyone has quality, affordable health care. And that means we've got to fix the Affordable Care Act, keep what works about it, but improve it, get the costs down. Premiums and deductibles, prescription drug costs are way too high. So we've got to work on that.
Her husband, Bill, went even further yesterday. He didn't have a lot of great things to say about the legislation.
The people that are getting killed in this deal are small business people and individuals who make just a little too much to get any of these subsidies. They're getting whacked. So you've got this crazy system where all of a sudden 25 million more people have health care, and then the people who are out there busting it sometimes 60 hours a week wind up with their premiums doubled and their coverage cut in half. It's the craziest thing in the world.
After that generated a lot of headlines, the former president offered a much more positive assessment today.
Look, the Affordable Health Care Act did a world of good, and the 50-something efforts to repeal it that the Republicans have staged were a terrible mistake. We, for the first time in our history at least, are providing insurance to more than 90% of our people.
So, Eric, that first soundbite is, I think, why a lot of Republicans were like, Bill Clinton wasn't that bad. I mean, he actually kind of gets the joke.
How do you go from it's a crazy system, the way literally his words, it's a crazy, Obamacare is a crazy system, to it's done a world of good. It's cleaning up your own mess. Hillary tried to clean up the mess as well. I'll tell you where it's not going over pretty well, I'm guessing, is in Brooklyn at campaign headquarters going, can we just get this guy off the stage, and in
Washington, D.C.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue as well, I agree. Right. Keep him off the stage. You got now you have Obama campaigning for Hillary and Michelle Obama also campaigning. They're doing a good job. Keep Bill off the stage. If I were them, I'd say, hey, Bill, it's time to take a little break.
No, you know what? They can keep Bill busy. But anyway, it's true. Keep him off the stage. The worst part of politics is when they know something is wrong, but they push it through anyway, which is ideology. Ideology trumps factual research or just common sense. Government intrusion is the left-wing equivalent of military intrusion. They never think of the next step. They just say, this is good, and the consequences will work themselves out. So, like, Obama didn't think this thing through. But he didn't have to, because the media absolved their responsibility in being the engine of criticism, because it's a progressive idea. If you have a progressive idea, the media will say, you know what? We don't care about the consequences. Go for it. So government intrusion has absolutely no emergency brake. And it gets worse and worse.
And if you look at the states and what is happening actually there, including places like Minnesota, which was at risk last week, one of basically having no individual market until they had some emergency step in. Some people think that the death spiral has already begun, and so President Obama tomorrow is going to give a speech trying to defend Obamacare because it is his legacy, and yet it's not going well, but she wants to make it even bigger.
Well, I think it is going well. So let me just say, I disagree with you. I think, in fact, the idea that you have 20 million people covered for health care who previously had no insurance is a big step forward. And you stop and think about a lot of things. This is kind of the mirror image of what Greg was saying. You stop and think about the political, ideological blocks that have been put in place, and you realize that President Obama, Hillary Clinton, and now Bill Clinton have all said, yes, there's steps that need to be taken.
Hillary Clinton is talking about this very issue right now. We'll listen to her.
Viewers really understands what that means is not just that the 21 million people on the exchanges would lose their coverage. If you repeal the Affordable Care Act, that means every American who is insured through your employer will all of a sudden go back to the days when insurance companies could deny you health care because of pre-existing conditions, where you would have lifetime limits, where young people would not be able to afford coverage, whereas now they can stay on their parents' policies until the age of 26. All that and more is part of the Affordable Care Act. So this is a really big deal because it affects, about 195 to 200 million Americans. And so people need to really pay attention when Trump says he's going to get rid of it. and turn it back to the insurance companies. And then one of the strangest things he has said, and there's a long litany of those, but one of them is how he wants to let insurance companies sell across state lines. In fact, he told an interview about a year ago, hey, I don't care if China sells us our insurance policies. I mean, imagine getting approval for your drug by calling Beijing. I mean, there's just so much that he doesn't either understand or care about. So yeah, we're gonna tackle it. We're going to fix it, and it won't be easy, but it's a heck of a lot better than starting from scratch, which is what unfortunately the Republicans want us to do. I think he made it clear what he was saying. Hi.
Now preparing for.
All right, you're listening to Hillary Clinton, who was answering questions on the very topic that we were just talking about. Kimberly, your thoughts on her answer?
Yeah, you know, I think what's interesting here is she kind of is having to clean up a little bit aisle 7 because, you know, Bill went out and spoke the truth, and then he had to walk it back because obviously they're saying, look, we're trying to help you win the presidency, and you're doing something that's basically disparaging one of the greatest legacies that President Obama likes to think, which I see Juan has ACA, Affordable Care Act down, not Obamacare. I noticed that. So they're trying to say, listen, we don't want to make a problem because that's her husband. What stuff that he says affects her, affects people's opinion and the voters out there listening. So he wanted to kind of put that out there a little bit to put some criticism, and then she has to say, okay, but it's okay, and it was one of the greatest accomplishments, and he backs her up.
Yep,
I mean,
so he made the accidental mistake of telling the truth. Yeah. And here we are. All right, ahead, Leo DiCaprio and President Obama have some strong words for those who don't believe in climate change. They spoke together at the White House yesterday. You'll hear from them next.
A lot of this in the film, but he...
Hollywood eco-warrior Leo DiCaprio sounding the alarm again about global warming, this time with a new documentary called Before the Flood. While DiCaprio's crisscrossing the planet trying to save the world, we should remind you he's not traveling in a solar-powered vehicle, but on carbon-polluting private planes and luxury yachts. DiCaprio screened the film for President Obama at the White House yesterday and delivered this warning to anyone who doesn't buy into global warming.
The scientific consensus is in, and the argument is now over. If you do not believe in climate change, you do not believe in facts or in science or empirical truths, and therefore, in my humble opinion, should not be allowed to hold public office.
And then, of course, the climate alarmist-in-chief chimed in.
We have members of Congress who scoff at climate change at the same time as they are saluting and wearing flag pins and extolling their patriotism. We've got to change our politics, and as Leo said, it's got to come from the bottom up.
All right. Look, I'm not a climate denier. I just need to see proof that A, we're causing temperatures, man is causing temperatures to rise, and B, this poses dire risk to humanity before we spend trillions trying to fix a problem we don't fully comprehend. That's just me. We'll bring it around quickly, Greg.
It's true. It comes from the bottom up because he is an ass. All right. What he just said violates the first rule of science. When you say science is settled, the entire scientific method is based on being proven wrong. Every scientist welcomes a challenge, and you have to wonder about a belief system that doesn't want any challenges, that doesn't want any of their theories to be questioned. What he is talking about is radical Islam of science. He is actually turning science into a religion. However, on the other side, do not call it a hoax because you play into their beliefs. Demand evidence. Demand evidence. Climate change has existed since the Big Bang.
Okay, Dana, in his humble opinion.
Yeah, nothing humble about that opinion that they gave. But I truly believe that this issue comes up in the vice presidential debate tonight because millennials care about this issue very much. We've read all week about the trouble that the Hillary Clinton campaign has with younger voters. So I think Tim Kaine will find a way to bring it up if the moderator does not.
Mr. Juan?
Well, this is interesting. I like what Dana said because guess what? Mike Pence, the vice presidential nominee of the Republican Party, disagrees with Donald Trump. He thinks human beings are involved with climate change and it's real. So I'm very interested to see how he would have to handle this.
Yep. So obviously this is something that is timely and could be brought up tonight to try to show the differences and drive a wedge between that ticket. But I just want to know if all these people that are complaining about climate change, are they going to sign a nice petition to say that they will, in fact, a pledge, not fly around on their private jets?
All right.
I will never do that.
We'll leave it right there, directly ahead.
This is a big
After all the hype, did WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange deliver on his promise to drop an October surprise about Hillary Clinton today? The answer, next.
Welcome back to The Five. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been pledging for a while to release more damaging documents on Hillary Clinton. But this morning there wasn't the October surprise many were anticipating. Clinton was asked about Assange moments ago.
Julian Assange this morning said he plans to release documents in the next 35 days that could affect the U.S. election. Are you worried that there's anything that could come out that would upend the race? And related to that, there's a report going around that you joked once about Assange, can't we just drone the guy? Did you ever joke about droning Assange?
Well, I don't know anything about what he's talking about, and I don't recall any joke. It would have been a joke if it had been said, but I don't recall that.
Not a flat-out denial. Kind of interesting that she said that. When you heard it, Blanche, so you turned your head.
Yeah, no, because I thought it was it was quoted, her saying, "Can't we just drone this guy?" Right?
Yeah, but she said she doesn't remember saying it.
No,
If it wasn't as a joke.
I don't know. I've not seen that actually in
Right,
print.
yeah,
It's reported that maybe she said that.
We may need context on it, maybe part of a funny dialogue back and forth, but still, I mean, I think she said it, right? It's been printed.
But you know
everywhere.
what? This kind of isn't what the topic was about. It was about what he did. He pulled the chain of all right-wingers. Saw Alex Jones just lose his skin over this thing because Assange is a self-promoting clown who played everyone. He doesn't like America. His whole endeavor is to subvert our country. That's how he got famous. It's not about what Hillary said. And hell, I don't disagree if she did say it.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is, boy, you know, you hate to see people just get played like this, because this was three-card Monty on the political right. It was saying, hey, you know what? He didn't do well in the debate. He's having trouble with Twitter, but Julian Assange is really going to get her. And you had people like Roger Stone, right, tweeting, oh, Wednesday, that's the end of Hillary.
Well, there's still 12 more hours.
Always the voice of reason, Dana Perino.
35 more days.
35 more days. You're still hoping?
No, I'm not hoping for anything. No,
But what happened here? Why say that?
She's like the Easter Bunny.
Self-promoter. I saw Kennedy in the elevator bay, and she said that she set her alarm for 3:30 in the morning, got up and sat and watched that. And then she went for
Did you make chocolate chip cookies and put it on the table with a glass of milk?
She ran 10 miles, across the bridge and back, and then came here, did 3 shows.
She did 7 miles and 54 minutes, her quickest time, it's a fact.
Wow.
One more thing, up next.
One more thing, Eric.
Okay, earlier today I was walking up Fifth Avenue, bumped into, drum roll please, anchor of Good Morning America, George Stephanopoulos. It was very cordial. We shook hands, but as I walked away, I was reminded of a gripping documentary Adrian and I saw recently, The War Room, about the 1992 election. It vividly illustrates the lengths Carville, Clinton, and his communications director at the time, George Stephanopoulos, went to suppress the outrage stemming from some of Bill's most scandalous pastimes. Stephanopoulos was the Clinton hitman who unapologetically covered up sex scandal after sex scandal. It also reminded me of the time Hillary told Stephanopoulos they needed to, quote, destroy her story, referring to one of Bill's sexual advances. Anyway, always good running into George on the street. Also want to wish my awesome wife, Adrian, a very happy 19th anniversary. Super mom, super wife, 19 years with me. She has to be a saint.
Agree. Happy anniversary.
You said all of that to George on the street?
No, I just said hello and shook his hand.
Dana had
Just wanted to make
18-year anniversary and
Yes.
bowling
Wait till
19
now.
years. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Greg's Nutrition Tips. All right, if you own a Shar-Pei, don't feed him strawberries. Take a look at this poor soul. This dog was fed a strawberry and has yet, since this has been filmed, been able to eat it because it just can't get it into his mouth.
Why?
Look at this. Isn't this amazing?
But why?
I don't think you're supposed to give dogs strawberries anyway.
No, you're probably not. Well, it's certainly not grapes.
Well, you can't give them chocolate or raisins.
Or blueberries.
All right, Dana.
Okay, so this is fun. If you need something to talk about with your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever.
Why do you have to use those terms?
You have to check out Megan McArdle's column on Bloomberg. We're going to have it on our Facebook page. It's called The Economics of Dining as a Couple. And you can go through, it talks about the different ways through economics, if your kids are studying economics, have them go through this, such as, do you each order something separately? So that would be autarky. Do you have individual production with trade? So like Kimberly orders something and her boyfriend orders something. We're not naming anybody. And then they maybe trade something. I just didn't want people to think that.
This is dense.
We don't have a boyfriend to talk about at the moment, I don't think. Are we talking about one?
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow. Off track. This is a really good article.
All right.
Kimberly.
Ben Stiller had a surprise announcement on the Howard Stern show earlier today. He said he was diagnosed with aggressive prostate cancer 2 years ago at a very young age, 46, and had the radical surgery to remove his entire prostate gland. He's healthy now and telling his story to raise awareness for young men of the dangers of not paying attention. This November, for me, marks 7 years since in my early 50s I was diagnosed with prostate cancer and had the very same surgery. And I just want to double down on Ben's message, how important it is for Scandinavian and African-American men to know about prostate cancer.
Thanks. Hi, I just want to say happy birthday to my son, Ronan. He's 10 today. We have some pictures of him. Real quick, if we could show.
So cute. And he's 10. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge.
And you've done a good job, Mama.
He's into his second decade.